Hey, what's up, everybody? John TheMorgile live here from sunny Florida. Going to cover the eclipse tonight, the lunar eclipse tonight. So I'll give everybody a. Ooh, maybe I should mute myself. Yeah, there we go. That's the ticket. There we go. All right, so here we are, live Sunday night, and as you guys all well know, there is a total lunar eclipse tonight, and there's a few different things that we can cover about this topic, but the first thing I wanted to do was to get a little background into what is this wolf moon business. So, of course, the page I had pulled up is gone. So, what is a wolf blood moon? Because I have never heard of that until this one coming up. So maybe we can get refined the definition here. So according to QZ.com, the Super-Wolf-Blood-Moon is a media and search engine optimization invention. Some sunlight does reach the moon, but it's refracted by the Earth's atmosphere, they say, turning it a reddish color, hence the blood moon. Much of the media is calling the total lunar eclipse that will occur tonight Super-Blood-Wolf-Moon. So, and I suppose I should share the screen with you guys for this portion of it. So let's see if I can make that happen without giving away my Hangout link. Very clever of me. Whoops, I think I just did the wrong thing. Oh, well, let's see what happens with that. Right, so here's a nice little graphic here for you guys. Shows a time lapse of, I guess it's not tonight's eclipse because it hasn't happened yet, but that's what they mean when they say blood moon. So anyway, back to this quote from QZ.com. It's mostly a media invention driven largely by efforts to get readers to visit news websites through a tactic known as search engine optimization that likely began thanks to nonsensical apocalyptic prophecies promoted by a handful of fringe Christian pastors and writers in 2014. It's not clear who first came up with the term blood moon, but all it means is a total lunar eclipse. To be fair, a total lunar eclipse is a relatively rare astrological event. From any given place on Earth, you can only see one about once every 2.5 years, and they can look very cool if you get clear skies and a good viewing spot. What happens, according to the ball Earth theory, is the Earth gets between the sun and the moon. So we're going to skip all that. But what is this wolf moon business? That's what I wanted to know. They say the wolf part is actually real. In the tradition of certain Native American cultures, each full moon of the year was given an identifying name. The year's first full moon was the wolf moon, according to the Farmer's Almanac. And I suppose I should ask you guys if I'm coming in through loud and clear, make sure that the screen share is working properly, and it appears that it is. So yeah, I guess we're good to go on that. So anyway, continuing on, the concept of a supermoon is just as fake as a blood moon, since the scientific term for this perigee-syzygy moon, for the scientific term for this is a perigee-syzygy moon, it makes sense that we come up with something less jargony. On the other hand, blood moons already had a perfectly good name. This is certainly an incomplete record, but it's instructive to see how often two of the U.S.'s newspapers of record, the New York Times and the Washington Post, have referenced blood moons in their history. So you can see on this chart here, the Washington Post in pink and the New York Times in cyan. It'd be magenta and cyan, I suppose. It says, when did the major U.S. newspapers start referring to a blood moon? It all seems to have started post 2010. So there's a pretty cut and dried data chart there that indeed lends credence to this argument that the whole wolf moon, blood moon thing was made up to drum up, viewership or readership or whatever. So it says here, in their respective 168 and 142 year histories, the Times and the Post never once used the term to refer to any sort of astrological phenomenon until 2014. They did both, however, extensively use the phrase total lunar eclipse, The first mention found on the archive search tools on the Times website dates back to April of 1921. So the post's first use of total lunar eclipse that is findable online using ProQuest is even older, from June of 1881. The blood moon trend exploded in 2014 when the first in a tetrad of full lunar eclipses, that is, when there are 4 full lunar eclipses in a row with no partial eclipses in between them, occurred. And according to some sources, this is my little side note here, some sources purported that that was, how do you say it? Fulfilling of certain biblical prophecies. So I'm not going to get into that. And of course, eclipses can be predicted, solar and lunar. And so if it's fulfilling any sort of prophecy, then that would be one of those self-fulfilling prophecies, I would suggest. But anyway, a group of fringe Christian clergymen, they say in this article, and writers latched onto this astrological event, reading it as a sign of end times based on a very stretched reading of a few biblical passages. They published books on what would become known as the Blood Moon Prophecies, which with titles like Blood Moons, Decoding the Imminent Heavenly Signs, Blood Moons Rising, Biblical Prophecy, Israel, and the Four Blood Moons. Hoo-wee-oo. And of course, 4 blood moons, something is about to change. A little media attention to them was all the internet needed. Here's a record of Google search interest in the phrase blood moon and total lunar eclipse going back to 2004. So in magenta is blood moon, and in cyan is total lunar eclipse. You can see that blood moon clearly spiked right in between 2013, 2014, and has continued to spike up relative to total lunar eclipse since. So they continue on. Since Google became the portal to the internet for a growing number of users, Alexa ranks it the world's biggest website, publishers have increasingly had to rely on ranking highly on the search's search result pages. That often means chasing trends centered around specific search terms. So I'm breaking away here again, but I guess it's safe to say that Google is actually controlling or setting the trends as opposed to being a reflection of the trends, which I think that is a notable change, within the last decade or so. It used to be, apparently to me, that the search engines, and especially Google, were a reflection of existing trends. And it really does appear that Google is in control of trends and is setting trends and is preventing topics from trending, putting them in more of an editorial position rather than a thermometer for the times, as it were. So they continue on with the article. It's no surprise then that the Post published 10 and 17 stories on blood moons in 2014 and 2015, respectively, while the Times joined in the fun with 2 in 2014 and 6 in 2015. There were no high-quality total lunar eclipses in 2016 or 2017, so things quieted down a bit, but then blew up again in 2018 and 2019. By looking more closely at what the Times was actually writing about and the language its writers used, you can see the journalists, plural, first attempting to be creative when given the assignment to write about blood moons. A moon-themed crossword puzzle is fun, but then their frustration seeps in. For example, a 2015 opinion piece asks in exasperation, why are we so obsessed with blood moons, but can't get our stuff together to save our own planet, or planet, from climate change, if that is actually a thing? An article published today on January 20th is subtitled, quote, "You don't really need to call it a super-blood-wolf-moon," end quote. Worse, though, are the bizarre attempts at integrating the extremely popular search term into stories where it really makes no sense. Take a story from February 2018 about life in Kobani, a small Syrian town destroyed by regional war. For some reason, the piece is framed narratively by the blood moon that occurred that month. It even manages to fit in the full search term du jour of the time, super blue blood moon. This is not to pick on the Times. Nearly everyone in media now plays this game. And you should, by all means, go out and try to see the total lunar eclipse tonight, but maybe just call it that. So hopefully that was informative to you guys about where they're getting these wolf moon and blood moon and super blood moon names. But of course, the Native American tradition is to call the first total lunar eclipse of the year a wolf moon, or maybe it's the first full moon of the year. Did I read that wrong? Anyway, it's a Native American term that has been sort of merged into the vernacular for this super califragilistic blood wolf supermoon, right? So I'm going to try to get video of this thing periodically. I'm trying out a new software. It's, well, not so new, but it's new to me, Droid Cam. And what I'm going to try to do is to share my screen while I put the Droid Cam feed up on the screen recording, and hopefully that works out properly. So let's see what happens with that. Anyway, as I'm setting this up, let me pop back over to the chat and see how everyone is doing. All right, so no complaints. It appears on the quality of video and or audio. So do some quick shout outs before we get started. What's up, Flat Earth Map, Flat Earth Model? Hey, Bob, Glowbusters, what's up, buddy? Steve Finneran, Trev Lagston, Tanner Chop. Yes, yes, what's up, everybody? Eric Woodard, Grant Bennett. So a whole lot of flat earthers this evening in the chat and ready to take a look at this blood moon scenario. All right, so let's see how this works, and maybe if you guys can tell me if my audio starts crapping out when I go outside, or if there's any issues with the video. But okay, here we go. I'm gonna try this. Well, it's probably going to be pretty difficult to see, but okay, where is the moon from here? Oh, wow, it's right out my door. So let's see how it comes up here. Looks kind of dark, maybe. Oh, here we go. All right, so let me know if you guys can see this, please. I'm going to pop it over to here. All right, so now you can see my floor. I'm just going to do a quick test and let me know if you guys are able to see this beautiful moon out of my my little webcam here, my droid cam. So wow, what a beautiful full moon it is. And it looks like we are barely, just barely able to see a slight shadow starting to encroach on the, well, from where I'm standing, it's like the bottom portion of the moon. Like if you're looking at the rabbit in the moon, he is straight up and down for me. So he's standing upright from my position. And the shadow that is encroaching on the moon looks like it's coming from the bottom of the rabbit on the moon. So I'm not sure if you can make that out from this picture, but let's just see how that works. So, okay, I'm gonna bring you guys back in with me, and here you can look at me instead of, oh wow, I'm sideways. Let's see. No, now I'm upside down. I'm in Australia. Okay, so wow, that's a really bad picture, isn't it? All right, so let's see if you guys were able to make anything out on that. Were you guys able to make out any detail on the moon, or was that just all the way awful? Let me know so I know how to proceed. But if nothing else, I can get um, periodic snapshots of that. Let me stop sharing real quick. So her eyes on level says no. I guess that means you were not able to get any detail. Well, and oh, it says yes, the moon looks silvery, bright, and brilliant. Okay, wow. So that's awesome. So what I'll do is periodically, maybe every 15, 20 minutes or so, I'll pop out there and get an update on that. But yeah, you can definitely already, it's about 10:15, so it's, I don't know, maybe 40, 45 minutes into the eclipse. You can see the eclipse is starting. So, okay, the first thing that I wanted to talk about in terms of the lunar eclipse not jiving with the ball Earth theory is it's pretty interesting. I mean, this one thing alone is a slam dunk against the ball Earth theory's explanation for lunar eclipses. So let me pop out InDesign, and I'll just do I'll put together a real quick diagram for you guys so that I can show my point. And I guess really I don't even have to do much diagramming because the Globers have done a lot of the work for me. So let's see if I can get a diagram of total lunar eclipse. Because really they've painted themselves into a corner with this one. Okay, so let's get this diagram here, and I'll go ahead and pop that onto a InDesign file. Bear with me here, and I will remember to share my screen again so you guys can see. That's the most important thing, right? Okay, so let's see. And I will try to do so without giving away my Hangout link location. All right. Whoa. All right, screen share. Sorry, bear with me here. Right on. So, okay, sharing my screen again. Hopefully y'all can see my screen, and we'll go ahead and put this diagram up. Wrong one. Copy you. Right on. So here goes that. Okay. And so according to the ball earth theory, you've got a very specific alignment going on when you have a lunar eclipse. So according to the ball earth theory, you've got this alignment, sun, earth, moon, and they claim that the reason that we don't see lunar eclipses all the time, because naturally you would expect the shadow of the earth to increase in radius with distance from the earth obstructing the sun. So, right, so shadows always, as a rule, at least represent the same angular size as the object creating the obstruction, and never in reality, with a single light source and a single obstruction, can you demonstrate a shadow tapering off into a point with distance. And so, we very relatively rarely see lunar eclipses, and of course, this is explained away by this umbra or penumbra phenomenon, where again the shadow of the Earth tapers off into a point that the Earth, rather that the moon must transit in order to get the lunar eclipse phenomenon. Okay, so the problem with this is, like, we're already starting to see the effects of the lunar eclipse happen at about 10 o'clock p.m. And again, what you would expect to see is the moon transiting the shadow of the Earth in this model, the opposite of solar noon. So let's find out what time was solar high noon today, or what time was solar noon today? Question mark. And of course, it's not just going to give me a straight answer. What time is solar noon? Okay, timeanddate.com. Because it isn't just at 12 o'clock noon. But okay, it's safe to assume that solar noon was not at 10 a.m. this morning. Okay, and the totality of tonight's eclipse, let's just get it back out here. Tonight's eclipse time and location. Right. So, here we go. Okay, I found it so easily last time, and now I cannot find it. Oh, here we go. So, UTC time. Oh, here we go. So yeah, 9:36 p.m. is when it started. The totality full eclipse maximum is at 12:12. So that's pretty much in line. That's actually pretty much in line with the globe Earth theory. But the thing is they're not always like that. So again, you would expect to see the moon transiting this shadow area and reaching its totality at exactly midnight. Similarly, during solar eclipses, you would expect to see the moon transiting the sun at its totality at exactly high noon. And again, when I say exactly midnight, we mean exactly 12 hours past solar noon. So I really am interested to see what time was solar. Let's just do it this way. Solar noon calendar 2019. They're sure going to make it difficult. So I guess I can do solar noon here if I do night, solar noon. Okay, so solar noon today, January 20th, was 12:32 p.m. And so this is a bit imperfect. You know, if the globe Earth was perfect, you would have this maximum eclipse time be at exactly 12:32 p.m. Because again, in order for this whole model to work, you have to have an alignment upon the ecliptic plane from the sun to Earth to moon. It has to be a perfect alignment. And so you would necessarily see in this model the totality or the maximum lunar eclipse occurring at 12:32 a.m. this morning. You know, in about a little more than 2 hours. So does that make sense? Let me just check with you guys and see if that's making sense to you about the timing of the lunar eclipse, because you know you just you can't have that alignment if the moon is off to, you know, to the left or to the right of the Earth's shadow, which it necessarily would be in their model if it was, you know, even 20 minutes or an hour prior. So even though the moon isn't quite yet maximum eclipsed, the alleged shadow of the Earth is already hitting it, and we're only at 10:30, so we're 2 full hours prior to midnight. You know, to solar midnight or whatever. So yeah, Joey Bag of Donuts, lol, the moon's atmosphere. Yeah. And so what about the whole fact that the thing is supposed to turn red, right? You know, it turns red when it goes through the Earth's shadow because of refraction. I mean, that is just the most boneheaded thing I've ever heard. But okay, let's go check on the moon. It's been about 15 minutes. Let's go take a look at it and see what it looks like now. And I do apologize for the low quality, but you know, it's the best I can do right now. Um, I will try to get better cameras and stuff, but not today. All right, so where is my silly little, here it is. Okay, so I'm still screen sharing, and that's upside down, that's right side up. Okay, so let's go have another look at the moon. Wow, and the sky is just really lit up tonight. I gotta tell you, it's like really super blue, and the moon is getting higher and higher overhead, so it's getting more difficult for me to see it. But yeah, we're definitely getting almost halfway up to the rabbit in the moon's neck. We've got a shadow traversing the moon going from bottom to top. And, you know, I am curious to know if there's anybody listening right now, you know, either far north of me or anybody that's, I don't know, south and west of me. Do you also see the shadow coming from the bottom of the rabbit to the top? And so that's, you know, yeah, it is cold outside though, isn't it? Tinfoil Hatter says, I got to go out in the sub-zero and chill for a second. Yeah, it is getting pretty cold out there. Vigilante D says, we're in a chem fog in Montana. Really? Well, we've got really crystal clear skies tonight, so we're pretty lucky here down in sunny Florida. So that's definitely a good thing. Let's see, checking in on the chat, and I guess I can stop sharing for now. Jason Harris says, water is flat, horizon always rises to eye level, no curvature, and now infrared, it's all good. Yeah, it's totally over for the globe. Like they don't have a legs to stand on. Rob Roy says 23 degrees here. Thanks, John. Yeah, what's the current temperature here? It is a little chilly, but you know, I'm used to it being 100 degrees. Current temperature, 2, okay. Yeah, 45. So I'm freezing. Even though it's not literally freezing, I'm freezing out there. Right. But yeah, it's looks like it's going to be a really excellent viewing of the eclipse from where I'm sitting. Nothing spectacular has happened yet, but once we start seeing that totality, the moon should become blood red, hence the name Blood Moon, Super Wolf Blood Moon. And of course, as we discovered earlier on, the whole wolf part of it comes from Native American tradition, where the first full moon of the year was a wolf moon. So that's interesting. You learn something new every day. I wasn't sure why they were calling it a wolf moon, but now you know. Oh, and I wanted to give a special thanks out to Maria. Was the one that made this whole thing possible. As I mentioned before I started the live stream, I can go to the labor hall tomorrow morning, the temp agency, and try to get out on a work ticket, usually manual labor, usually minimum wage. Sometimes I get a little bit more if I do electrician work, but basically my position was I can either go to sleep an hour ago and get up at 4:30 and try my luck with the temp agency and maybe go to work and maybe not, maybe waste my time and my gas for nothing. Or I can reach out to the community and see if anybody wants to crowdfund this hangout. And one single lovely person, Maria, stepped forward and chipped in $50. So normally, I earn about 60 or up to $70 in a day at the labor hall. And with Maria's help, I was able to nix that plan and go ahead and do this instead. And I'll tell you, I'd much rather be hanging out with you guys talking about flat Earth and the blood moon than sleeping and getting up in a couple hours and going to the labor hall. So here we go. Stan Wingfield says, presently there is a halo circle around the moon where I am in the northwest of the NA Rocky Mountains province, Alberta. So the question I would have, Stan, is are you looking at the moon? Is the rabbit in the moon right side up, upside down, left to right? And if you're seeing any shadow traversing the moon, is that coming from the bottom of the rabbit's feet? So just curious to know if everyone is seeing it the same as I. Asha Ramkasoon says, "Hey, where I'm from, it's getting yellowish moon tonight." Well, where I'm at, the moon is definitely a bright and reflective, blinding white, and there is a bit of a shadow coming up from the bottom of it. And the rabbit in the moon is right side up at this point in time. And from where I'm sitting, oh, we just got a super chat from Antoine Eberl, $2. Thank you so much. Good night, man. I guess I'm staying up too late for some people. It is past my bedtime, but as I said, I'm gonna go ahead and play hooky tomorrow. And hang out with you fine folks. And what I may end up doing is, because again, the totality of this thing isn't until after midnight. So I may end up taking a break sometime between now and then and popping back in, but I may just leave the stream running. And one thing that I'm also going to do is send out sort of an invite. If there's anybody out there that would like to join me on Hangout, if it seems like you're not an absolute troll that's going to ruin my stream and like play porn on your end or something, um, then maybe you can hang out for a little while with me as well and help me fill in some of the time when the spectacular supercalifragilisticexpialidocious blood wolf moon is just sort of chilling and doing its thing. So, okay, Chrissy Shonda says very slight shadow coming up from the bottom left in Nevada. So yeah, I think maybe the shadow is coming up from the bottom, slightly to the bottom left, so it'd be like southwest. But the rabbit in the moon, yeah, no, it's coming directly from the bottom, and the rabbit in the moon is right side up from where I'm sitting. So in Nevada, is that also what you're seeing, or is the rabbit in the moon also right side up, or is he tilted as well, or what does that look like? And man, I wish I could get a high res picture of it, but it looks like my camera or droid cam is not doing all that great of a job at that. But maybe I could do a diagram because that seems like it would get it better than these low res pictures. So here we go. We'll try that. We'll get an image of the moon. Copy this. Share my screen. Okay. So let me pop this into InDesign. Ooh, that's a big moon. Right on, right on, right on. Okay, so whoops. All right, so the rabbit in the moon from where I'm sitting is like, am I totally tripping now? Let me go get a better look at it. Now I'm like, wait a minute, do I have this upside down? Hang on. We'll get it right. We'll get this thing right. Yeah, so it's that way. Yeah. Just rotate this counterclockwise a bit. Okay, so yeah, where I'm sitting, the rabbit in the moon is about like this. Yeah, well, no, it's still more this way. There we go. Yeah, it's like this. So where I'm sitting, this is how the moon is aligned, and the shadow, we'll just do like an ellipse. The shadow is basically coming up from the bottom like so. Let me indicate where that is. Make it a bit transparent so we can see through it. And basically that's about where it's at right now. So it's coming up from the bottom, and the rabbit in the moon is more or less, aligned straight up and down. So again, is that basically what you guys are seeing? And I would love to know if there are discrepancies, because as we know, the moon, as it traverses the sky every night, it turns like a wheel on its axis. So if you look at the rabbit in the moon, who is straight up and down when the moon is rising, a few hours later, when the moon's high in the sky, the rabbit will be like sideways, right? So the moon is rotating as a wheel through the sky. Um, which I'm not sure how that works in the ball Earth model, because the moon is allegedly spinning on its axis once per month, conveniently, so that we only ever see one side of it, which absolutely does not make sense when you get into the alleged orbital velocities and such, and the ecliptic nature of the moon's orbit. But we won't even get into that. I am just curious to see if what I'm seeing down in Florida is similar or different to what you guys are seeing elsewhere. And based on the couple of comments that I've seen so far, it seems like we all have a very much subjective and variable view of the moon, depending on a number of conditions, location, time, and such. So Telix says lots of people streaming it at the moment, so a great time to compare. Yeah, definitely. So again, I think my diagram here is probably the best way to indicate what I'm seeing, and maybe this has moved up a bit, so maybe it's more like that. And I suppose I should make this a bit darker, because it's still quite hard to see here at 21%. But okay, let me pull this camera out, and we'll take another look at the moon. Yeah, here we go. So if you guys can get a good view of that, let me know. But yeah, oh wow, we're getting the really dark portion of the shadow is starting to traverse the bottom of the rabbit's butt. And I would say it's coming from directly at the bottom of the moon is the direction from which the shadow's coming, maybe slightly off to the right. So that would be like off to the southeast, because I'm facing essentially right now. This right here would be more or less due east. That's going to be north. And so if this is due east, looking straight up, straight up, straight up, there's the moon. So it is still a bit in the eastern sky. And I suppose it's going to continue traveling this way up and over my roof. If you can see that frame of reference there. Um, So there it is, and yeah, we're really starting to see the darker portion just beginning to transit the moon from the bottom side of the moon. So we have not yet gotten any of the blood moon effects or any of that good stuff just as of yet. But okay, you've got that little update on the moonage. And is there anybody out there that might want to join into the hangout this evening? It would be best if I know you or if I've maybe seen you around in the chats before, but we can't be xenophobes as flat earthers, and so hopefully if I allow somebody to join in the streaming with me, they won't shoot it down. I mean, that would be bad. Yeah, so okay, see Oddity, where are you at? Did you say you were in Arizona? You said it's coming from the left there. I mean, how does that work on the ball? I mean, we should be seeing a 100% consistent view of the moon and the shadow of the Earth transiting it. There shouldn't be any discrepancies from location to location because if the Earth was a ball and the moon was so distant, there wouldn't be any wiggle room for that. One second, guys. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, so anyways, um, yeah, if you guys would please let me know where you're at. Okay, so Sea Oddity says moon southwest. And where did you say you were at, Sea Oddity? Oh, Ireland. So wow, you're already seeing this in Ireland. That is really interesting. So I'm curious to know, Sea Oddity, what time will the moon go through the maximum eclipse phase where you're at? I guess it's going to be what, about 6 hours before me. So anyway, it's certainly not going to be anytime near solar midnight or the opposite of high noon. um, Tinfoil Hatter says Michigan foothills a few hours north of 8 Mile. So Tinfoil Hatter had said, I'm not finding where he had said what he's seeing. But okay, bear with me, guys. I'm having to adjust around here. All right, so yeah, really interesting stuff so far, and we're just now getting into the thing where we can see the really dark totality beginning to take effect on the bottom portion of the moon where I'm sitting, and others in Ireland and positioned elsewhere on the plane are seeing a completely different phenomenon. So let me go back to this diagram, and I suppose I will share again. So we've got this here. Let me get rid of this for a second. Move, damn you. All right. So here's the thing. Whether you're sitting on this ball, hypothetically, maybe that's a little large. Sorry, guys. I'm doing a diagram as we go here. Right. So whether you are positioned, here on the ball or here, I just don't understand how you're going to see a different version of what's happening to this situation here. And again, the only time that the moon would have this totality going on from being overhead would be according to someone that's directly at solar midnight. So again, to have the thing at 90 degrees overhead, which it's just about at for me, and coming into the totality of the eclipse or the maximum lunar eclipse. Yeah, that's the only way that could work in this model. Now, of course, you could be standing here and you can see the eclipse occurring at, say, what would this be, 2 in the morning? But I guess what I mean is, the only way that the moon could be overhead, 90 degrees overhead, and view it in totality or maximum lunar eclipse would be at midnight, at solar midnight, the opposite of high noon. So, you know, the ball Earth fails to account for all this stuff, and we just take it for granted that it works. But Certainly, whether you're standing here or whether you're standing here or there, we should all see a consistent experience of this total lunar eclipse. Also, a big problem that I have is, with solar eclipses, the shadow of the moon positioned here should be massive, because again, shadows always increase in angular size proportionally with distance from an object obstructing a light source. At the very least, the shadow of an object should be the same radius or the same diameter as an object obstructing the light source. But no, when it comes to the ball Earth theory, you've got the moon positioned here and the shadow from it tapering off into an teensy, teensy little point when it finally hits the Earth is usually 50 or 100 miles in diameter and is sometimes as little as 2 miles in diameter. So, how is it exactly that an object that's supposedly 1,000 miles in diameter is casting a shadow that's 50 miles in diameter? That makes absolutely no sense. And really, this example, as far as or as far as solar eclipses go, is the only thing I can think of where celestial objects actually interact and interface measurably with the ground that we live on. So, the moon's shadow is the only time a celestial object actually graces us with measurable, tangible physical evidence here on the ground. And what does that tangible physical evidence align with? Well, it aligns with a local and very small moon. It absolutely does not align with this notion that the moon is some 250,000 miles away, 1,000 miles in diameter, and magically somehow casts a shadow that is sometimes as little as 2 miles in diameter and is usually around 50 to 100 miles in diameter. So, that's solar eclipses. And furthermore, when it comes to solar eclipses, the shadow of the moon should only be positioned at high noon. So whatever latitude line or longitude line, rather, whichever longitude line is currently experiencing high noon should be the only point that the moon's shadow touches. Okay, this is basic, simple geometry. And really, again, the globe earthers have painted themselves in a corner with this umbra and penumbra phenomenon because there's only one alignment. It's right down the middle there. And I'm sorry, but if you want to argue with this point that it doesn't really hurt the globe earth theory that the moon's shadow is often way over here, this whole thing falls apart with that one single observation. The whole thing falls apart when you see a shadow from the moon that's 2 miles or 50 or 100 miles in diameter. I mean, really, please demonstrate to me a, say, 1 foot object casting a shadow that is 1 inch. You know, good luck. You're never going to be able to do it unless perhaps you get out laser beams and magnifying glasses, convex lenses, and the whole 9 yards, right? So, at any rate, again, as it stands right now, for me, the moon is getting close to being 90 degrees overhead. And, that would be actually good to see. At least I could say, well, at least this particular full moon isn't completely out of whack with the globe Earth theory. It would be good to see the totality of this thing occurring while the moon is 90 degrees overhead for me. Because, again, when the moon's 90 degrees overhead, it would be like, I'm right here on this longitude line. The moon is right there. And if it experiences that totality while it's overhead at 12:30, which is the opposite of solar noon today, then you could chalk that up as doable in the globe Earth. I would really love to see one piece of evidence that jives with the globe Earth, but I'm willing to bet you that the totality of the moon for me on this longitude is not going to coincide with 12:36 p.m. or 12:36 a.m., which is again the 12 hours later from solar noon today. So let's just see what time will the moon be 90, 248, whoops, 248, 90 degrees overhead. Well, that's not true. Technically, they're going to tell you that the full moon will be overhead at midnight, but yeah. Of course, solar noon varies, so why would the full moon not vary as well? I mean, for them to say here on the moon phase from Eric Weisstein's World of Astronomy, for him to say that the full moon will always be overhead at midnight, um, to me that seems a little ridiculous, right? Because the solar noon varies. Like again, they said solar noon was, what do they say, at 12:36? Yeah, solar noon today was 12:32. So, and I don't have a sextant, but you can pretty well gauge just by eyeballing it. You know, maybe I think I have a level. You could use a level to help you in this sort of estimate. But it really seems to me that the moon is almost directly overhead for me right now, like just a few degrees shy of it. So let me go back into screen share. Oh, am I still screen sharing? I guess I am, huh? Yeah, sure am. All right, so let's get a screenshot of this. Where's my thing here? There we go. All right. No, did we just freeze up? Okay, here we go. I might have to step down a hair. Yeah, so all right, now we're definitely getting that totality. I'm sorry, the shadow transiting the moon from the very bottom, and you know, it does appear as if the rabbit in the moon has rotated a bit. So yeah, look at there. I wonder, can I zoom in with this, or is that just too much to ask? Yeah, that's too much to ask. But hopefully you guys are able to see that. It's starting to look very cool from where I'm sitting. Again, the bottom of the moon is starting to be transited by a very deep and dark shadow that does appear to have a bit of a red tinge to it. So let's see here. Yeah, I am pointing the right direction. I don't have it upside down. That's due east. And yeah, this thing is practically 90 degrees overhead. I would say within 30 minutes, it's going to be 90 degrees overhead. Like I'm looking straight up, and the thing is, well, 1, 2, 3 degrees, 3.5 degrees um, east of 90 degrees overhead. So there you have that. All right, coming back in. Yeah, we were really lucky tonight, or this year, or this instance of the blood moon. We were really lucky to have crystal clear skies tonight. They were not hitting us with all of the chemtrails and such. So, yeah, awesome, good stuff. Okay, so let's check back in on the chat. The golden rule says, "You haven't seen me, but I am opening a channel this year." Awesome, good on you, mate. Golden rule, you'd love to chat. Okay, so if you guys want me to send you an invite to the Hangout, either send me an email or put your email in the chat. I guess for your own anonymity, it's probably better if you send me an email. So go ahead and send an email off to themorgile@gmail.com. I'll put a link in the chat. There we go. Send me an email with your email address, or just send me an email saying that you want to join the Hangout, and I should be able to reply with a link to join. Just as long as you please don't do anything to get the stream removed and get me a strike. That would be really wrong, and I'll never do this sort of thing again. Oh, hey Cammy, what's up, Aisling 717? Greetings from Denver. Hey, how you been doing? Good to see you. Thanks so much for joining. Tinfoil Hatter says 6 years ago he captured something jumping over the moon. I wonder if it was a cow, but the video sadly doesn't reflect that. Yeah, I know. It suck that often we see things very clearly with our eyes, and you try to get it on video, and it just doesn't come out. Um, I guess I always have crappy cameras, but one day I'm gonna get like a P900. By the time they have like a P2000, I'll get the P900. But hey, it'll be new to me. I'll tell you. All right, so yeah, let me check on my emails again. If you guys want to join the Hangout, I will try to send you out a link to join, and just send me an email to themorgile@gmail.com. and I will do my best to get you out a join link so we can, you can do your shout outs and we can talk for a minute about the Super-Blood-Wolf-Moon that appears to be a bunch of search engine optimization window dressing that publishers took advantage of in order to capitalize on the trends. Flat Earth data says TheMorgile equals 33. Is that true? You're just pulling that out of thin air, or what? Is that actually true? Oh, well, you didn't have to delete that. Is it really 33? Like, I had no idea. But, you have to pick one or the other. You can't use the different kinds of gematria to suit your argument. Like, pick one and stick with it. Because if you're using 5 different kinds of gematria, then I think it sort of loses its meaning. You have to use one and just decide which one you're going to use from there on out. Right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. But Sick Bakiv says Flat Earth Data did that 1,000 times on Globebusters. Sergio Amada says Flatis equals Flatitis equals 33. Chrissy Shunda, thank you for the super chat. Says $5 and sent a super chat for $1.99. So that was very kind of you. Thank you for that. Hippie Carl says it is not the Earth's shadow, and I'm pretty sure I did not say that it was. Maybe you're not talking to me, but whatever that dark sky shadow is that's traversing the moon is coming from the bottom, and the rabbit in the moon, from where I'm sitting, is standing right side up, and it appears that he is rotating a bit. So okay, let me stop sharing and check my email. Okay. Okay, the golden rule says that he wants to chat, and I know that was the one that Bob just deleted his message, but I don't know, Bob, is this guy a total troll, or there was just that one thing where he said my name was 33, and again, I'm not trying to prejudge anyone. I just don't want to have my stream taken down. Okay. Yeah. So, Eric, I will send you a link for sure. And as far as the golden rule, I don't have any problem sending you a link, sir. So, as long as I get some sort of a positive, what do you guys think out in the chat? I mean, should I send the golden rule a link? I've never met him before. And the one thing that he said in the email is, I promise I won't F up your chat, FUCK up your chat. So, I don't know. I cuss like a sailor, so who am I to judge? But, Andrew Ciancoyota, sorry I butchered your name, but Morgile shout out from Ontario, Canada. What's up, buddy? Whoa, is that the blood moon? Yeah, it's blood moon tonight, and it is a total lunar eclipse as well. So it should be a pretty interesting one. It's also a wolf moon, which all that means is Native Americans used to call the first full moon of the year a wolf moon. So this is a blood wolf moon. Yeah. So anyway, do you guys have any feedback on the golden rule? This character, should I send him a link? I don't know. I guess if I send him a link and he does me wrong, then I'll never do this sort of thing again. So let me gather up the invite thing, inviting people, and I will send you guys out a link to join here momentarily. Now, just a heads up. When you do join a Google Hangout, you have to use Google Chrome. So like I usually use Firefox, and it doesn't have the plugins, doesn't work with Firefox. Maybe you can join with it, but you certainly can't host. So maybe I'm wrong there, but okay, Eric, I'm sending you out a link, sir. There you are, my friend, and the golden rule. Sick Bakiv says if he's not real, call him Rusty Rule. Hippie Carl says nope. Check his channel first. If no subscribers or content, I'd say no link. Wolfie Moon. Okay, so here we go. Golden Rule. Let's see. I'm going to check out your channel. Good advice. Usually I would think that far ahead, but it's kind of hard to juggle all this stuff around. But okay, where did the Golden Rule's little avatar go? I'm not finding it now. Golden Rule, you want to pop in another comment so I can see you and check your channel out? And I'm still scrolling through trying to find your little avatar logo again. Where, oh, where did he go? Okay, well, guess what? Golden rule, I'm just going to go ahead and send you a link. But please, you guys, just keep it family friendly. Um, no porn. Um, just keep it family friendly. That's all I can say. Oh, and I suppose I should turn down my speakers. Sounds like I've got someone on here already. Is that you, Eric?
Yes, indeed. What's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Not much.
Oh, here's what I need to do. Hold on. I need to change my playback devices. Delete this. Enable this. There we go. Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you're good.
Great. Okay, awesome. So, how's it going, man? Where are you at, Eric?
Uh, Shanghai since the New Year's Day.
Shanghai. Awesome.
Yeah, it is what it is.
So, what time is it there?
Just coming up on noon.
Noon. Okay, wow. So, do you have any visibility on the moon at all? I suppose you don't, but maybe you do.
Last night it's pretty hazy here, so kind of sunny
Okay.
but hazy. China. So.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So, what did you think? Were you able to see when I was filming the moon? Were you able to see it at all, or was it pretty bad quality? I can't really tell from where I'm at.
It's hard to translate that stuff into video. What you actually see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a bit of it. Not much. I don't know you were. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Awesome. So, how long have you been looking into flat Earth?
Into flat Earth. What's that? I think I'm losing you.
No, I can hear you good. I think we had someone else pop in. The Golden Rule popped in, so maybe when he came in, it disturbed your what you were saying. But yeah, how long have you been looking into the flat Earth for, man?
Oh God, that's hard. Pretty much the whole time. I was looking into Hollow Earth years ago, and
Hmm.
yeah, about 4 years ago when Flat Earth started coming out, I just looked into. Oh, let me see this stuff. Yeah, I was never really a ball. The science of it, and gravity, the whole thing. Where why not? How can it fly the same distance, same time to fly between New York and LA, both directions? That's just pure retardation. The simple
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, I never really believed the ball.
Really? Well, and I know that when I was younger, I had reservations about it, but to be honest with you, I bought the thing hook, line, and sinker. And when I was about 10, I took my first airline flight and noticed that the flight from Orlando to Dallas and back, the two flights were identical in duration, and I thought that that was huge. And I told my aunt about it when I arrived in Dallas, and she basically shot the whole thing down, told me I didn't understand physics, and that was that. But
No,
revisiting the topic as an adult, I think that we were, I think I was onto something there.
yeah, out of the minds of babes or kids or whatever the expression is. I mean,
Yeah.
the natural world is just not that complex. Sorry, it works. Um, I'm not religious, but there is a design, and it's quite simplistic in many ways. I mean, it's complex, but
Yeah.
it's simple. Things work. Okay, and flat and stationary just makes perfect sense. Whether
It
you're
does.
religious and you believe in creation, or even if you do lean towards the evolution of things, just random evolution, it just makes sense on both sides. Sorry, we don't need fancy maths
All
and
right.
weird complex physics to describe reality. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that people invested years of so-called education to get fancy. Sorry. You guys were suckered.
Yeah. All right. So real quick, we've also got Golden Rule on. What's up, buddy? Where are you at, Golden Rule? How's it going?
Hey, can you hear me okay?
Yep, you sound good, man.
Oh, great. I'm out here in the East Coast, North Carolina,
Okay.
and
Nice.
I'm trying to stay warm. I was outside to maybe show you the moon, but it never shows up right on the cameras like it does when you see it,
Yep.
Um, but it dropped in temperature precipitously in the last 24, 48 hours. And it's kind of interesting because my wife is full-term pregnant, and you know, he's my son is due on the 23rd, and this moon thing is happening, and she started to have some progression today, and I thought maybe it had something to do with it. And I'm actually in here getting a room ready, one of the rooms ready for you know, the changes, and I tuned in to your conversation, and thought I'd join you.
Yeah,
um
man. Well,
I appreciate it.
congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations on
Thank
the
you.
baby. Is that
yeah.
I
your
appreciate
first
that.
one?
It's my second.
Oh, okay.
I've got a 1.5-year-old daughter, so we're just happier than ever. But I message you because you know, I subscribed to you at the recommendation of one of my associates, and we're starting a channel this year, hopefully, called the Zetitic News Network. And
Mhm.
you know, it's not narrowly focused on the whole flat Earth issue, but it is in many ways inspired by it. And you know, we became interested in this subject together, and realize how much we didn't know. And you may have come across that book, the Zetitic Astronomy.
Mhm.
And I like that word Zetitic. We brainstormed about what to call the channel. And if you look into that word, it basically means to proceed by inquiry.
Yep.
And that's how I've always lived my life. I haven't always been a flat earther per se, but when I came upon some material, you know, for whatever reason, my personality structure, I just, I didn't dismiss it outright. And I found it just to make sense, like with respect to my experience. So I didn't obsess over it at the time. This was probably around 2012, 2011. And it's interesting because I came upon some PDFs, newsletters from the Flat Earth Society, which you may or may not agree with in whole, but some of the arguments I was reading while I was flying on an airplane, and I was just like, wow, like I must have been destined to get this information at this particular point in time. And you know, like I said, I didn't obsess over it at that time, but it was like a little seed that got dropped back then. You know, I proceeded sort of believing in the globe and other conspiracies, like, you know, fake alien invasion and aliens and ancient aliens and all of that. And but then
Mhm.
this whole subject started to come back within the mainstream psyche, and it's like, you know, I see celebrities talking about it, blah blah blah. You know, everybody, you know, in this area has watched, hopefully, Eric Dubé's, you know, History of Flat Earth. So uh you know, it's now almost like more apropos than it was when I first came upon this information. But it is
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
scary to, it's scary to consider, you know, how indoctrinated we all are, from such an early age.
Yeah, indeed. And you mentioned Zetetic. I think that was a fabulous book. I've read it a couple of times, and I actually put up an audiobook version of it on my channel quite a while ago. And you're right. I mean, Zetetic process is a great way to approach pretty much any problem. I think it's preferable over the scientific method, or at least the theoretical scientific method, as it were. Because yeah, I mean, you find pseudoscience and anti-logic not just in the cosmological and in the globe Earth theory, but it's just everywhere. And I too, I agree. For my whole life, I've been very much a zetetic sort of person and didn't even know it.
Yeah.
But I always wanted to get down to the nuts and bolts of something. So, like, you could show me a math equation, and even if I understood it, I would want to understand how every little bit of it worked. And the same thing goes with lots of topics, whether it's I don't know, the speed of light or the LIGO interferometer device, just all these things that you know I want to know the nuts and bolts of it, and how does this thing work, and how does this problem work. And if you can't explain it to me, then
Right.
how do you really know that you have an answer, right?
Or what
So
value does it bring? If it doesn't bring real value in life, then it's almost just a theoretical exercise, which 9 times out of 10, when you're talking to scientists, that's exactly what they're doing. They're just theorizing. Doesn't actually have any real effect. But I like the idea of a Zetic news network because the news, as we know it, does more dictating than they do, proceeding by inquiry. They don't do a whole lot of questioning. And if they did, then we might be able to get some answers because they're not even asking the questions. They're really not even asking the questions. They're just telling you what to think. And that's why anybody like yourself would create a channel, right? Is because, you're probably tired of being told what to think. And, the only way to combat that is to either ask the questions yourself or, like my wife is doing right now, make a better person. So hopefully the future,
yeah,
we operate under so many presumptions as a result of compromises that were made by our ancestors, and we just we don't even question it. And so on the flat earth subject, like me and my buddies who talk about this, we don't like to refer to ourselves as flat earthers because it's like an affirmative statement and opens you up to an argument. Instead, to reframe it, we talk about being globe questioners.
yeah, globe
Or
skeptic. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, and then it changes the conversation and puts the burden of proof on them to prove that which they're asserting. But when you say I'm a flat earther, then they're like, oh, it's easier to dismiss in that way.
Yeah, well, there's all kinds of negative connotations and stigma attached to the phrase. I mean, and that's no accident. We were all drummed, during elementary school and middle school that everyone used to think the Earth was flat and they were a bunch of idiots, more or less. But okay, just an update on this eclipse going on. And now it seems as if the darker shadow portion is coming from the bottom, slightly from the bottom right, and the rabbit in the moon has rotated maybe a degree or two clockwise, I believe. But are you guys able to get a visual on it? And what part of North Carolina are you in, man?
I'm in the Piedmont region, which is kind of smack in the center.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I lived in Fayetteville for a number of years.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, Vietnam. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah. And the other guest I have, his name escapes me at the moment. He's in Shanghai, so we've got people on the East Coast U.S. all the way in China, right?
Oop, you're
Wow, I can't believe what I'm seeing, guys.
what do you see?
The moon is phasing.
Wow. So let's get another look here.
It is phasing. I mean, I'm seeing the shadow, if that's what you want to call it, move. I mean, I can see it moving back and forth.
Yeah, I kind of see what you're saying as well. Like it's like like the shadow is growing and then shrinking. And man, I'll tell you,
Yes.
when you look at this thing for a little while, I'm serious. I see two moons. Like I see the moon and then like another instance of it above and behind it. It's very much looks like it's going through a lens, and I'm sure that's not being picked up here. But wow,
This is so strange.
yeah, it's like pulsating
Yes.
very slightly.
Because it's electric.
Eh, wow. Yeah, and it's wow, it's almost 75% covering the moon, like the shadow area, the shaded portion, and you're definitely starting to see a bit of a red tinge on the portions of the moon that are obscured by the shadows.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
wow, really awesome. All right. So hopefully, I don't know if my screen share feature is working or not. It's just got some random guy, at least the last time I saw it, it was like some guy who isn't us sitting there scratching his head. Is that what you guys are seeing on
That's
the,
me.
oh, that's you. So what is it stuck on you? Is that what it is? Or is my screen
Yeah,
stuck?
let me try to turn. I thought my camera was off. Let me see.
No, I don't think that's what it's supposed to be doing, but I just refreshed.
Well, you're sharing right now. You're streaming your whole desktop.
Right. Okay, so maybe my screen was just frozen, but were you guys able to see the moon as I was just filming it like 30 seconds
No.
ago or no? Okay. So let me do that again because it looks as if it's working now. And when I do this, I can't really tell. So if you guys can maybe help me out here a little bit, and I'm gonna pull this thing back up and try to screen share that again. Here we go. So let me know if this comes through on y'all's end, and I'm gonna get my little low resolution crappy shot of the moon here. But wow, it's like yeah, it's 90 degrees overhead or pretty damn close to it now. And like I said, we're getting a really deep dark shadow coming up from the bottom of it and a definite tinge of red coming from the portion of the moon that is shaded. Huh. And let's see, is it still pulsing? Yeah, it sure seems like it, unless I'm like getting vertigo here. It looks like it's ebbing and flowing a bit.
Yeah, it's hard to
Yeah,
ooh, hard to tell over. Hmm.
wow, but yeah, it sure does look as if that's what it's doing. Wow, that is just wild. Huh. Yeah, and really this thing is I would reckon it's 90 degrees overhead right now. And it's about 11 o'clock. Solar midnight isn't until 12:30. So how does that work? Hmm. Does that make sense the way that I explain that? Like with the diagram, how like especially with solar eclipses, you should really only expect to see the shadow of the moon on whichever latitude line or longitude line rather is experiencing solar noon. So yeah, it looks like the screen share worked that time. Sorry about the previous attempts, you guys. I'm not sure what happened there. But did that make sense to you
Wow.
guys?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Okay, so yeah, what else? So um, okay, so maybe we can talk about this, the whole Rahu Ketu phenomenon, because the globe earthers claim that the shadow on the moon is the Earth shadow, and it's being cast on the moon, proving the heliocentric theory, proving the Earth is a globe. But you know, it could be, in my opinion, it could be any number of things that's casting that shadow, and you know, when it comes to solar eclipses, the fact that we've got so many discrepancies between real world observable reality and the globe Earth theory, you know, we can't just go and say, oh, well, the lunar eclipses prove the ball. So are you guys familiar at all with Rahu Ketu, I guess it's ancient Vedic sort of cosmology?
Yeah, to a degree. Not
Okay.
well, but yeah.
Yeah, like I've looked into it a bit, but essentially what their claim and their belief was that there were essentially dark stellar bodies that you cannot see. You can't see them with the naked eye at night or during the day, but it is they who are responsible for blotting out the sun during solar eclipses, which I have my reservations because I think there is good evidence that it's the moon transiting the sun during solar eclipses. And conversely, they say that it's either Rahu or Ketu, one or the other, that is
Mhm.
traversing the moon during lunar eclipses. And that is pretty interesting to me. Um, you know, especially when you start looking into the whole Planet X Nibiru thing, which a lot of people are crazed about. I got into that craze a couple years ago. Like you mentioned as well, the whole ancient aliens thing. I was hooked into that for years. But now, you know, I've changed my views on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, Rahu and Ketu could be a very, very cogent and clear explanation for what's occurring and what's transiting the moon during the lunar eclipses. And I'll pull up an article, but you guys have anything you want to say about Rahu and Ketu?
Yeah, they're good ideas. Whenever the ballers or even flat earthers start talking about the stuff in the sky, it seems pretty self-evident to me that first and foremost, those things are basically just all that stuff up there is a timepiece. It's what we've been using it for ages, and we kind of got away from it with this calendar and this, these smartphones with just digits, some arbitrary number and name, January, February, March, all that stuff. To me, it's a timepiece, all of it. What they're made of and what not, I don't know. I mean, maybe the moon is just something like an aperture, that's where you get the phases. Maybe it's a light that just has an aperture that gives us certain degrees to tell us what the time is.
Yeah. Yeah, and it definitely could be. And that's what the Bible and many other ancient religious texts state, is that the sun and the moon are there for days and nights and to keep the seasons. But okay, so reading about Ketu from Wiki, it says Ketu is the descending or south lunar node in Vedic or Hindu astrology. According to some accounts, Hindu mythology, Ketu belongs to Gemini Gotra, whereas Rahu is from Patinasa Gotra, and hence both are totally different entities with distinct characteristics, but are two parts of a common body. And that really echoes the Chinese yin and yang, right? So there is some parallel there. But they say Ketu is generally referred to as a shadow planet. It's believed to have tremendous impact on human lives and also the whole creation. In some special circumstances, it helps someone achieve the zenith of fame. Ketu is often depicted with a gem or star on his head, signifying a mystery light. Sort of jumping back here just to something that you had mentioned earlier, you had said that the temperature dropped precipitously there in North Carolina very quickly, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's owing to the full moon, because as we know as flat earthers, the full moon light especially has a cooling effect, whereas full sunlight obviously has the opposite effect. But that's interesting to note. Also, last year we had some hurricanes come through that one of them in particular happened during a full moon, and overnight during that full moon, it actually lowered in its strength. So there, and hurricanes love that warm water. So there is, there is real world applications for flat Earth truth. And the fact that moonlight is cooling is something that I had never heard in all of my years, looking into science and such.
That's funny, John. Because when just to interject, I remember when I started getting into flat Earth and I heard something about the moon, and I remembered immediately that because I've read some books on curing meats and fish, and look at any simple book. We've been doing it for thousands of years. Every book, basic farmers type book will tell you that you bring in your meats and fish at night.
Yeah.
So what's that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, there are definitely different properties between sunlight and moonlight. Sunlight is preservative. Moonlight is putrefying. There's even accounts of people sleeping under the full moonlight and going blind as a result. I don't know how true that is, but there are definite differences between sunlight and moonlight. Although I wouldn't go so far as to say that disproves the moonlight being reflected sunlight. And the reason for that is, if the moon is a physical object, which I have my reservations about that, it could be absorbing certain wavelengths of radio frequency and reflecting others, absorbing certain frequencies and reflecting others. And that could very well explain why the moonlight, it doesn't cause the sky to glow blue. It doesn't heat up the atmosphere or whatever. So, and of course, the whole phases of the moon align very nicely to, like, solar eclipses only occur during the no moon phase, so that does lend some credence to the moonlight being reflected light. The opposite is true for lunar eclipses. But okay, just continuing on with this article. It says, as per Vedic astrology, Rahu and Ketu have an orbital cycle of 18 years and are always 180 degrees from each other orbitally, as well as in their birth charts. This coincides with the precessional orbit of moon, or the 18-year rotational cycle of the lunar ascending and descending nodes on the Earth's ecliptic plane. Ketu rules the Scorpio zodiac sign together with Mangala. Astronomically, Rahu and Ketu denote the points of intersection of the paths of the sun and moon as they move on the celestial sphere. Therefore, Rahu and Ketu are respectively called the north and south lunar nodes. The fact that eclipses occur when the sun and moon are at one of these points gives rise to the understanding of swallowing of the sun and the moon by the snake. So often Ketu is misunderstood as Uranus during Sanskrit to English translation. However, Uranus isn't visible to the naked eye, and its discovery is attributed to the use of high-resolution telescopes in modern astronomy. So just an interesting note about Rahu and Ketu and what the ancient Vedics believed was responsible for eclipses. So there's that. So let's see here. Let's check in on the chat. And anything else you guys wanted to mention, comment on, talk about, discuss? It's throw it out there if you got it.
Hey, that's a pretty good information to give a perspective. I'm not even certain that we only have one sun. I don't see any evidence that how many suns we have on this earth.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I've kicked that idea around a bit. Earlier we had, well, on the Globebusters we had discussed Flat Earth Crush has a sort of a model of the heavens where basically it's an AE projection, but instead of placing the central point of the AE projection on the North Pole, it's placed basically right over Egypt, which is interesting for a number of reasons, because Egypt is supposedly the geographical center of all land masses on the Earth. Even if it were a sphere, even globe earthers agree to this geographical center of Egypt. And so if you place the center of the AE projection over Egypt, you get an effect where the latitude and longitude lines all converge at the 90 degrees north and similarly 90 degrees south. And in order to make this work, you might actually have two suns, or maybe it's not even two suns, maybe it's two reflective instances of the same source. And frankly, I've long been of the leaning or the bent that the sun and the moon are inherently connected. Perhaps they're not even two objects. Perhaps they are two instances or two reflective instances of the same source. And so, yeah, but I agree. I mean, I think that it's very possible that we could have more than one instance of the sun, and we would be none the wiser. Like, there would be no way to tell from the ground, and it may actually solve some problems when it comes to translating things into a flat Earth model. But have you guys seen? And maybe I'll find it because he's got a name for it. But have you guys? Are you familiar with Flat Earth Crush's channel on YouTube at least?
Flat Earth Crush. Oh God, there's so many.
Yeah. No, he put out a video a few months ago. And let's see if I can find it. But basically, he's got a new flat Earth model that is based on really the AE projection. But let's see here, flat Earth breakthrough new model. Yeah, here it is right here. So let's go ahead and do this, and you probably won't be able to hear it, but that's okay. So this is what it looks like. And you can see the very center of the map. Maybe it's a little off of Egypt, but if you place it on Egypt, which is right about there where my mouse pointer is, you get an effect where, according to Flat Earth Crush at least, the sun and moon timeanddate.org data works very nicely for all of the azimuth and elevation angles of the sun. And this model solves a lot of problems where the sun is always making an east to west path, and then it sort of changes its direction after the equinox, and either the vernal equinox or the autumnal equinox accordingly. But so it's a pretty interesting concept. He's got some stuff animated here at some point. So, but the guy goes into pretty good detail on this, and I'll drop a link into the chat so that everyone has it. But again, the channel is Flat Earth Crush, and the name of the video is New Flat Earth Model Trumps Globe. So definitely worth looking into. And yeah, put this here. So let me drop this in the chat, and then I'll probably try to get another shot of the eclipse, take a look at it, see how that thing is doing. But yeah, Flat Earth Crush, there's the link, everybody, for the chat. So here we go again. Let's put it back on here. All right, so I'm gonna go take another look at the moon. It's now 11:30, and we should be getting pretty close to where the thing is fully obscured. Oh wow, you're definitely seeing the red tinge in the darkened part of the moon, and just a bare sliver, the lit portion of the moon is visible at the very tip top of the moon. And you know, I don't see it pulsating anymore, so maybe that was just an optical phenomenon, because it would be very easy to tell it now. But are you guys able to see it, or at least North Carolina? Are you able to see it still, or you're staying warm, huh?
He's on mute.
No, okay, no worries. Wow, and if we keep our eyes on this thing, we should be able to see it go into well, at least totality in the umbra. And
Hey,
I guess it's not going to be till after midnight that we see the full-on blood moon effect. Go ahead, North Kakalaka.
yo, this is the golden rule, and I would say 90% of the moon is behind an amber type. It's like a filter over 90% of the moon, and then there's just a sliver.
Yeah.
And it's almost equally covering the top portion, but it's slightly it's like between if it was a clock, the sliver starts at 11:55 and it goes to 15 after.
Yeah, like, well, for
And
me, it's like maybe like 9:45 on the left part of the sliver, and it goes
uh-huh.
almost right up to midnight. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's strange.
Yeah, but there is
But it
definitely a red tinge to the darkened portion. That's really cool.
yeah, but
And
it's
that should
not
intensify, I think.
pulsing. It's not pulsing like it was earlier. That was
Yeah, like when you mentioned that, I noticed that too. Like, I don't know, was that were we tripping, or was that an actual thing?
no, I don't. I mean, I saw it. It was just what was strange about it is that it wasn't. It wasn't like there was a transit that was consistently moving one direction. It was flipping back and forth, almost like a shutter, slowly, not like a fast like a camera shutter, but it. I would describe it as tripping. The way it looked.
Yeah, it was definitely pulsating. Like I'm pretty sure I saw that too. Man, I wish I had a better camera. Maybe there were some guys out there with the P900s that got it, because surely we weren't the only ones who saw it. But
Right.
wow, here we go. So this thing is about to go into totality. Like I would say it's just a matter of minutes before the moon is completely obscured. Man, that is really weird looking. Like it's almost like the lit portion of the moon is floating above the rest of it. Like it doesn't even seem like it's attached. It's really kind of hard on the eyes. That is weird. Huh. I wish you guys could see this on the camera, but if it's not too cold, go outside and take a look at it before this thing goes into totality, because I'd say we've probably got 5 minutes before the whole moon is just gone behind that shadow of something. Oh, and wow, it's just started getting a little bit brighter red too, like all of a sudden.
I
Huh.
just found a pretty decent stream called PN, like the and symbol, PNK Science. They're streaming that.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's a
Okay, so maybe for our viewers' pleasure, we could just share that and we can discuss that, because
yeah. I
my
mean,
camera sucks. I'll just come out and
is
say it.
that it's
Can you drop a link?
It looks like a street light to me. Basically, I can't discern
Oh,
anything.
really?
Yeah, I mean,
Well, here's what I'll do. Let me do this then. Let me stop sharing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to search YouTube for
P and K sign.
eclipse
It's a pretty good one.
live. Pretty good. Do they have a pretty good? Oh, here we go. P and K science.
Yeah.
It's like ampersand K science.
I put
Or
it in
you
your
mean like
chat.
P?
And
Yeah,
like,
send me a link. Send me a link to the video in the chat, and I'll share that one. That way.
yeah, I just did, but it's rolling fast. I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. Oh, so you put it in the actual chat. Okay.
Yeah, the
I'll
YouTube.
tell you what. Put it in the group chat here in the Hangout if you can.
Oh, okay, okay. Let me see. How do I do that? Right here.
Yeah, I think the way you do that is, yeah, if you go to the player, like the Hangouts, there you go. You got it. So let me copy that, or I'll just click it. Okay, and oh wow. So wow, it seems like they may be a little bit delayed, but that's okay because they've got a much better view of it than I ever could. So let me share my screen. All right, sharing the screen. There we go. Okay, so hopefully y'all should be able to see what we are seeing right here.
Yeah,
And if y'all could let me know, because I can't, like, as long as I'm watching this, then I can't go back over to the other thing. So, and I want to go outside and look at this because we don't have much time left before this thing goes behind totality. And then what I think I might do is take a break until we get into the maximum portion of it, which is when we should start getting that really brilliant blood moon red refraction, whatever it is. But so, yeah, the very tip top left of the moon, directly above and to the left of the rabbit in the moon's head, is all that is lit. Maybe 5%, 7% of the moon is lit, and the rest of it is just I don't know, sort of a pinkish reddish tinge. So it's
and the only thing, John, is it's sharing over the Hangouts, but not on the YouTube stream. It's just your face there.
oh, okay. So maybe I need to present to everyone. I didn't think you had to do that still, but okay. So let's see. Yeah, we definitely. Oh, it looks like it was actually working. So let me go back to it. So over here. All right, and yeah, that should do it. If not, let me know, but that should do it. And yeah, that's about what I'm seeing. What they've got here is about what I'm seeing.
Oh, cool, cool. So yeah, because they got a timestamp that says 11:30. Yeah, it's pretty live, I guess.
Yeah. And yeah, we've really just got a bare sliver. So yeah, they are a couple minutes behind, but wow, it's definitely beautiful, whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's the moon is the only thing that I admit it does look like a ball, and it looks like, I don't know, man. It does look ballish. I don't know.
Have you seen, this is something that Jaron brought up a couple years ago, but there were these optical illusion dragons. That's the best way I can describe it. But essentially, you had it's like a cardboard cutout that's life size, like the size of a standing man. It's a cardboard cutout that is convex. So it's like a square cardboard cutout that is convex, but as you move around it, it appears to be I'm sorry, the thing is concave, not convex, it's concave. But as you move around it optically, it looks as if it is a 3D convex object. And it raised a good point. Yes, I agree, the moon does look to be a sphere, and maybe
Or
it is.
okay, some people are getting triggered. Okay, let's say it looks like a convex. I don't know. It looks roundish.
Right. No, well, and I agree. I mean, and frankly, if the moon turns out to be a sphere, in no way, shape, or form does that prove or even suggest to me that the Earth is a sphere. But when I come back in before I go to break, I will show you what I'm talking about, because it really it raised beyond the shadow of a doubt that just because an object appears to be convex or spherical does not necessarily mean that it is, and it could be the opposite of that. And the way that our eyes work, you'd never be able to tell unless you were able to pull the thing up close, examine it from a couple different angles before you could make that determination. But yeah, right now, go ahead.
No, I'm saying exactly. I mean, it just
Yeah,
I've
right
been,
now the totality of the eclipse is about to overtake the moon. So like you've just got just the bare little sliver of the thing that is lit, and I would say it's just going to be a matter of seconds before the whole moon is within the totality of the shadow. So it's very beautiful, and the rest of the moon is like a pink. But I think that after midnight, we should get an even more robust red color from what I gather. But I guess that remains to be seen. Wow. Really beautiful. The skies are, I mean, the stars are way more visible in the sky than normal. And yeah, it looks like we've just got a matter of minutes before the whole moon is obscured here.
cool.
Nice.
I've been trying to look for some any piece of classical art that represents the Earth is the moon as we see it now, with all these things that look like craters, and I can't find any. I don't know if this is a more recent, like if you look at Chinese classical Chinese art, which is very lunar calendar, it's just like a disc, just a disc. There's none of the details that we see today, which is kind of mind-boggling to me that I can't find any piece of classical art that shows the moon as it is today.
Yeah. Well, and did the ancient Chinese have telescopes, or I guess that was more of a Western invention? Do you
Um,
know off the top of your head?
well,
I guess it was Galileo, around Galileo's
yeah,
time, that they came up with the microscope and the telescope, right?
right. But I mean, just even like a full moon as we see it today, like with the dark, what they call craters and things like that. Like we just don't. There's no piece of classical art like that. It just doesn't have it. I don't know if it. I don't know. It's weird to
Huh.
me.
Yeah, interesting point. Okay. So yeah, like really the whole moon now is basically in totality, or at least in the umbra portion of the shadow, however you want to say that. And so, wow, yeah, it's like it's just got just a bare sliver of it, and the thing's going to be behind cloud. I mean, behind cloud, behind shadow. So let me show you real quick what I was talking about on the concave dragons. Give me 1 second. Okay, so let's see if I can find it. Okay, 3D dragon cardboard. Maybe I can find it. Yeah, here it is right here. So check this out. This is crazy. So this T-Rex, you would think it definitely appears as if it is, and there's a much larger one later. It appears as if it's convex. Like it looks like a 3D object sitting on that table, moving its head around. And it is just a cardboard cutout. There's no sort of trick photography involved. But when you take the camera beyond a certain point, like beyond that fourth wall, if it were, if you will, the trick reveals itself. So here's a bunch of them, and you get that same effect as he moves. It appears as if it is a convex three-dimensional object, and it's very much seamless. Like I would, just looking at this, I would wager that that is somehow a 3D T-Rex spinning its head around. Like
Yeah.
it's really an optical illusion though. Like when he pulls the camera around beyond a certain point, it's like, wow, your eyes can definitely be fooled by these sort of optical illusions. But so that's when I say the moon, yes, it does appear to be convex, it does appear to be a sphere, and maybe it is. That's not going to hurt the flat Earth at all if the moon does turn out to be a sphere, but it could also be a concavity, and you would get that same effect where it appears to the eye to be spherical. So I think it's on this one. He'll take it all the way to the back. There you go. Do you see the trick reveal
Yeah, yeah.
itself? Like, that is just wild, and I'll pull it back to that one again, because like that's just a mind boggler right there. Like, yeah, there. So
The
now
head part
the
almost,
optical illusion makes sense.
the head
What's
part
that?
when it almost looks like it's CGI. It almost looks like it's been manipulated too.
It
But
it
I know
does.
I've
Yeah, it does.
oh,
Like, that's what I thought the first time that I saw it. I was like, wow, that's really good CGI for someone to do at home in their kitchen. But no, it's
yeah,
like all it is a cardboard cutout, and then you know your eyes and your mind do the rest. But
posing.
you notice how the seam of that thing just completely gets lost. Like, there's the seam, but once that illusion starts to take effect, um, the seam gets lost. Like, your eyes just totally gloss over that, and you don't notice it anymore. So that was my response to you stating that, yeah, the moon appears to be a sphere, which I agree. Although when you see something like this, it's like, well, just because it appears to be a sphere doesn't mean anything really. So
Yeah.
yeah, interesting stuff. Okay, so did you guys have anything you want to cover real quick? What I'm going to do is pop off and take a quick break and come back in at about 12:30 when this thing is in maximum, if that's cool with you guys.
No, good.
Okay, awesome. Well, I guess what I'll do real quick is pop off the stream. I'm gonna to give it a rest, and then I will pop back in at about 12:30. So if you guys are back in, send me another email, and I'll pop you guys back in as well.
All right. Cool.
Sound good?
Cheers. Lunchtime for
Thanks
me.
everyone for joining. Yeah, and I'm gonna stay up and trudge through this whole thing. I might not stay up for the entirety of the eclipse, but I will be up for the maximum, and for that maybe a good hour after 12:30. So thanks so much for joining. Go ahead and plug your channels again. It was Golden Rule, right? Go ahead. Oh, you don't have a channel yet, but he will have a channel soon. Golden Rule, and what the other guest? I'm sorry, in Shanghai. What was your name again, bud?
It's Eric. We've talked
Eric.
before.
Oh,
Yeah.
have we? Okay, awesome. Well, thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks everyone out there in the live stream for watching, and I'm gonna start the stream again in about a little less than an hour. I'll start it at about 12:30. So, with that, thanks again, and I will see you guys on the flip side.
Catch you soon. Cheers.
All right, cheers.